I have been fascinated by the brain for as long as I can remember. It's quite amazing to me that a single organ in one's head essentially defines who they are and how they see the world around them. Welcome to the Mission Happy Lab, a place where we learn new skills, habits, and practices in an effort to experience a happier life. I'm Kathleen, and I am a happiness educator. In this episode, we are going to explore brain stuff. The complexity of the brain is not lost on me, and the science is always a work in progress for those who study it. We're going to look at both how the brain functions and how the mind works, as these are essentially two separate concepts. The way I see it, your brain is like the hard drive, and your mind is your software. We're going to start with the brain, and I find it easier to learn from pictures, so let's bring up that diagram. It is important to note that mapping the brain and its functions can get as detailed as you like, depending on who you are. But for our purposes, we're going to focus on the parts that most significantly impact our behavior and thus our happiness. We'll be highlighting the PFC, the amygdala, and the hippocampus. Let's start with the prefrontal cortex, or PFC. This is the part of the brain for making responsible decisions, doing careful calculations, talking through a problem, and staying on task. Here's the catch. The PFC only gets information when the amygdala is calm and passes on to the hippocampus anything that is worth remembering. The amygdala is programmed to keep you safe at all costs. It regulates and blocks information from going to your prefrontal cortex so you can react in a flash. The problem is, it can't tell a stressful situation from a true emergency, and it can cause you to react without thinking. The hippocampus creates, stores, and processes all important facts and memories that the PFC passes on to it, such as texting shortcuts, details in your personal calendar, and the comforting smell of freshly brewed coffee in the morning. Now, what I get from this is that the amygdala kind of runs the show, and it's important to help it to remain calm in order to gain clarity in stressful moments. This can be achieved through mindfulness and meditation practices, but short of that, you might find that a few deep, full breaths can calm your amygdala and help you to think and remember clearly. It is something that I find myself doing often as it works for me. I also often refer to our happiness hormones as they are an integral part of our brain-body function. Hormones are chemicals produced by the brain and various glands across your body. They travel through the bloodstream, acting as messengers and playing a part in many bodily processes. One of these important functions is to help regulate your mood. Of these hormones, certain ones are known to help promote positive feelings, including happiness and pleasure. These happy hormones include dopamine. Known as the feel-good hormone, dopamine is a neurotransmitter that's an important part of your brain's reward system. It's associated with pleasurable sensations along with learning, memory, satisfaction, and motivation. Serotonin. This hormone helps regulate your mood as well as your sleep, appetite, digestion, learning ability, and memory. Oxytocin, often called the love hormone. Oxytocin is essential for childbirth, breastfeeding, and strong parent-child bonding. It can also help promote trust, empathy, and bonding in relationships. Levels generally increase with physical affection. Endorphins. These hormones are your body's natural pain reliever, which your body produces in response to stress or discomfort. Levels may also increase when you engage in reward-producing activities, such as eating, working out, or physical intimacy. Now here's the most important part, what you can do to help produce more of these natural mood boosters. It's a pretty long list of options, but here are some of the most important highlights. Start with exercise, getting outside, laughing, or playing with kids and pets. Leisure activities like cooking and eating with friends or loved ones are also helpful and fun. Manage your stress through meditation, mindfulness, massage, or even a good night's sleep. Listening to or making music has proven to be effective as well, and supplements such as tyrosine, green tea and green tea extract, probiotics, and tryptophan might also be helpful. Now let's shift over to the magic that is the mind. I will start by focusing on the subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is always working in the background, but you are not necessarily aware of it. Sometimes called the unconscious mind, your subconscious mind contains all of the stored information of everything you have ever experienced. Because of this, it influences how you react to things such as why you are shy, lazy, eat too much, or have an addiction. On the positive side, your subconscious mind also affects things like why you are motivated, confident, successful, cheerful, hopeful, and so on. Have you ever been in a situation where conscious verbal communication gets overridden by intuition? That might just be subconscious energy at play. I personally try to influence my own subconscious mind and the minds of others by injecting nonverbal positive messaging into their experience, perhaps without them even realizing it. Now, I'm pretty sure this is legal, and well, I do it all the time. A lot of my clothing is designed to influence both myself and others. Here are just a few examples of what could be considered an over the top amount of happy wear. There really is so much more than what I just showed you, and my friends and family tease me all the time. But I don't care. Just doing my job. I also have a vanity plate on my vehicle, and I've actually had drivers pull up beside me while driving and shoot me a thumbs up or other positive gesture as a show of support. Big smiles are flashed back and forth until one of us drives away. It really does make my day when stuff like this happens. You may or may not have seen that popular social media post that suggests that it's not backed by science, but the coffee mug that you drink from matters. Now, although my husband doesn't agree and drinks from the same mug every morning, I own a generous number of fancy mugs that have meaningful messages on them. As the coffee brews, I carefully ponder the type of mug that will be needed to start my day and choose it according to how I wish that day to unfold, the task that I need to accomplish, or how I wish to feel. There is now an actual mug ban in our house, and I have promised not to bring in any more for the time being. I'm pretty sure he's afraid that we're going to be headed toward this. At its core, subconscious and subliminal messaging is the idea that even though your brain isn't consciously processing and perhaps acting upon information, that doesn't mean that your subconscious is not taking it in anyway and using it to influence your perspective, responses, and actions. Up until now, you may or may not have noticed the messaging in the background behind me. Let's zoom in and have a look, shall we? Now, I'll never know if this subtle influence changed how you might think or how you will respond or behave, but that will never stop me from trying. A technique called power posing came to prominence through a popular TED Talk by Amy Cuddy in 2012. She also wrote a book on the subject called Presence that I found to be quite fascinating. Although it is now considered somewhat controversial, power posing is a self-improvement technique or life hack in which people stand in a posture that they mentally associate with being powerful, in the hope of feeling more confident and behaving more assertively. Though the underlying science is disputed, its promoters continue to argue that people can foster positive life changes simply by assuming a powerful or expansive pose a few minutes before an interaction in which confidence is needed. Let's try it right now. Stand with your feet shoulder width apart and place your fists on your hips like this. Hold it right there for a moment. Take a deep breath to expand and open your chest. Do you feel any different? This lends to our theory that your brain sends out and receives all kinds of messaging, and much of it isn't really necessarily verbal. Much like your conscious brain, this is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what your brain and mind does both in front of and behind the scenes to influence our happiness. We didn't even have time to get into how our brain is often a big fat liar that messes with our personal belief system. Too much to unpack there. We'll have to save it for another episode. Thank you for once again visiting the Mission Happy Lab. I encourage you to visit the comments and show me that you were paying close enough attention to identify the character that I subtly injected into the pictures that you may not even have noticed with your conscious mind. Do you have to go back and look? As always, like, share, and subscribe as it broadens our reach. And please return for the next episode of Choosing Happy.